On May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was killed at the hands of a law enforcement officer who was sworn to protect him. The Department of Justice has concluded that there is reasonable cause to believe that the Minneapolis Police Department and the City of Minneapolis engaged in a pattern or practice of conduct that violates the First and Fourth Amendments of the United States Constitution. There is also reasonable cause to believe that they engage in conduct that violates Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Safe Streets Act, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. Specifically, we found that MPD and the City of Minneapolis engages in a pattern or practice of using excessive force, unlawfully discriminating against Black and Native American people in enforcement activities, violating the rights of people engaged in protected speech, and discriminating against people with behavioral disabilities when responding to them.
Guilty.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am Leroy Truth for Leroy Truth Investigations, and always record the police, because that will always shine the light of truth and transparency on the criminal misconduct they do daily. Help us to hold them accountable and keep us free, and create the police reform that we demand as we the people. Now today, a follow-up story from the George Floyd unaliving. And those of you understand why I have to speak in this particular way, because of this place you are seeing this on. Now, the Department of Justice did an investigation. Remember, we got to get rid of internal investigations because they're just a joke. Now, even the Justice Department, they're just a bigger part of the system. But it seems they may have revealed some truth here. And where Merrick Garland has given a scathing assessment that was uncovered by this Justice Department investigation. And it alleges that racial discrimination and excessive force went unchecked before George Floyd's killing because of, surprise, surprise, Gomer Pyle, inadequate oversight and an unwieldy process for investigating complaints. It's called no accountability. The system has built into it a defense mechanism against accountability. Number one is qualified immunity. Number two is the police, from the highest levels of police commissioners to the mayors to the lowest levels, cops on the beat in the street. They do not want to be held accountable. And power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, let's see what Merrick Garland has to say here, Attorney General of the United States. And I will be stopping various times to underline certain elements and share some perspectives with you.
On May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was killed at the hands of a law enforcement officer who was sworn to protect him. As Mr. Floyd...
I gotta stop there just for a moment, that he was sworn to protect. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, what Merrick Garland will share with you about the Minneapolis Police Department. You can insert any police department in the United States of America, and it's the same scathing report is applicable to them. They don't swear an oath to protect us, even though they technically do. They're swearing an allegiance to the Brotherhood, to the gang, to the Thick Blue Line gang, and the politicians that they protect. Because remember, without the police, politicians are simply people with dumb ideas. Continuing.
Floyd died. Other officers failed to intervene. The Justice Department has since convicted 4 former Minneapolis police...
I'm going to go back to that. This is so important. No one intervened. So all of you bootlickers who are watching this and police apologists, there's mostly good cops. A good cop will never allow a bad cop to murder someone in front of their eyes. And if they say, what can they do? Well, let's see. You have guns. You would protect someone, ideally one of us, from someone who is attacking us and sitting on our neck for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes more, right? and you would use deadly force if necessary if someone didn't stop doing that to us. You need to do that to your fellow officers, but you don't, because the thick blue line is strong, like from Star Wars. The Force is strong with you, Luke Skywalker. The thick blue line is strong with you, police officers.
As Mr. Floyd died, other officers failed to intervene. As Mr. Floyd died, other officers failed to intervene. 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 The Justice Department has since convicted 4 former Minneapolis police officers for their roles in the death of George Floyd.
And that is so rare, as you know, ladies and gentlemen. It is very rare for police to be convicted. It is very rare for them to be charged. And even if they're charged, many times they're not convicted. But there was so much public outcry by we the people because that one person took a video of the unaliving of George Floyd. That was what created the beginning of accountability. Continuing.
As I told George Floyd's family this morning, his death has had an irrevocable impact on the Minneapolis community, on our country, and on the world.
Now, I want to underline, as many people have said, well, George Floyd was no saint. No, he wasn't a saint. However, regardless of any criminal past he may have had, it doesn't justify a judge-dread execution in the field that occurred by Derek Chauvin while all those other police officers just watched. And they are as responsible as Derek Chauvin, who sat on George Floyd's neck. And every single one of the sergeants and the captains and the police commissioner and the mayor, they are all personally responsible as well, because they support and allow this unaccountable legal criminal culture of the police to not just exist, but to thrive. Because this stuff couldn't happen unless you have the support of the entire system. Continuing.
His loss is still felt deeply by those who loved and knew him, and by many who did not. George Floyd should be alive today. Shortly after I was sworn in as Attorney General, I announced that the Justice Department had opened a separate civil investigation into whether the Minneapolis Police Department, the MPD, and the city of Minneapolis engage in a pattern or practice of unconstitutional or unlawful policing. I am here today to announce the findings of that investigation. I am also announcing that the Justice Department, the city of Minneapolis, and the MPD have agreed in principle to negotiate towards a consent decree.
Pause. Let's take a look. What is, in fact, a consent decree? Consent decree. A decree creates and enforces a roadmap for changes within a state or local governmental agency where the Justice Department has found evidence of misconduct. And here's the thing. That misconduct has to be incredibly egregious for the Justice Department to get involved. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be like that. Because there's consent decrees all over the country. But you don't know about most of them because, well, the police don't like to advertise them. And the mainstream media, they don't like to advertise them too. Because, hey, the police are sworn to protect us, right? To keep us safe, protect and serve. But that is the lie that we were taught since we were children. They're not sworn to protect and serve us. They're sworn to protect and serve the political establishment and each other. Because remember, their decree, their mission is not to save you or me from a crime. It's to get home safe. As I've said in some other videos, what if the military acted like that? That was their mission. Our mission, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, is to get home safe above all. That's the problem, one of the many problems with the police. Above all, get home safe. Imagine if firemen were taught that as their mission. They are brave. They run into danger. They don't run away from it like police Uvalde, for example. Ring any bell? Continuing.
Since opening the investigation, the Justice Department has engaged in a comprehensive review of MPD's policies, training, supervision, and use of force investigations. Our review focused on MPD as a whole, not on the actions of any individual officer. We observed many MPD officers who did their difficult work with professionalism, courage, and respect.
Yeah, that's supporting the system. We observed many. That is very rare. Now, it's not to say every single one of them are bad, and it doesn't mean that once in a while they don't do a good deed. And then people say, look at, wow, he saved someone from a burning car. Good. Good for him. That's his job. Not a hero because he does that. That's his job. He's paid to do that, supposedly. But systemically, culturally, literally, the police are our enemies. And they say, well, there's a lot of discrimination against people who are black, brown, and Native American. But there's bigger discrimination than that. There's discrimination against people of freedom. They hate freedom. The police, the culture hates freedom. They hate noncompliance, even if it's we don't have to comply. Because their mantra is comply or die.
But the patterns and practices we observed made what happened to George Floyd possible. As one city leader told us, quote, "These systemic issues didn't just occur on May 25th, 2020. There were instances like that that were being reported by the community long before that." The Department of Justice has concluded that there is reasonable cause to believe that the Minneapolis Police Department and the City of Minneapolis engaged in a pattern or practice of conduct that violates the First and Fourth Amendments of the United States Constitution.
Merrick Garland, what you're reading right now applies to every single police department in the nation. But you only want to pick out this one. Why? Because it became so blatantly obvious under the electron microscope of we the people demand justice here. But you're picking out like this is an outlier. But everything you're saying is part of what we're saying is wrong with the police and where we will be demanding police reform, including ending qualified immunity and also any police officer who observes another police officer harassing, assaulting, committing a crime against an innocent person, that they will not only be fired immediately, lose all pension and benefits, they will also be arrested for being part of that crime against that person or persons that is being assaulted or harassed or murdered by a police officer.
There is also reasonable cause to believe that they engage in conduct that violates Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Safe Streets Act, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. Specifically, we found that MPD and the City of Minneapolis engages in a pattern or practice of using excessive force, unlawfully discriminating against Black and Native American people in enforcement activities, violating the rights of people engaged in protected speech.
That's important there. Violating the rights of people with protected speech, the First Amendment. He's saying a lot of truth. He's laying a lot of truth on the line here. But my role and your role is to make them connect the dots that this is systemic nationwide and not unique to a single police agency.
And discriminating against people with behavioral disabilities and responding to them in crisis.
All right. So there you have it. Some public acknowledgement of a systemic problem with police culture and police. I'm not sure if you can hear in back of me. There's a very loud boat, which is pissing me off right now. You don't need a boat that loud, though this microphone may be isolating the sound away from you. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings about what Merrick Garland has shared? And also, what are your thoughts and ideas? How can we make the federal government connect the dots so that there is police reform in every police department and every level? Number one, we need get rid of qualified immunity. Overturn Terry v. Ohio. Demand, and we only can have external investigations, not internal investigations. Or if they want to do them, good. God bless you. Do some internal investigations. They're irrelevant. External investigations. Body cam footage cannot be deleted. You cannot mute or stop the audio or the video of body cams during the course of a police officer's duty. If you do, instant firing, instant felony, you go to jail. Boom, no questions asked. Obstruction of justice. Also, demilitarize the police. Also, all traffic police become disarmed. No more guns for traffic police. That's what escalates more interactions with the public, because there is such an imbalance of power. And most traffic stops are, many of them are BS, number one. And also, traffic cops do not need guns. Get rid of the guns. You're going to get you're going to get rid of the predatory behavior that cops have toward traffic stops. You know, Andy Griffith, we don't got that. I don't really think we ever did. Even on the Andy Griffith show. It looked all like, you know, apple pie and American and all that in baseball. But disarm the traffic cops, and that will change things profoundly as well. These are some ideas for police reform, some demands. Share yours in the comments as well. And also, email with your stories, your videos, your police demands, your ideas at LeroyTruth247@gmail.com. I appreciate you. Thank you for your support. Please share my video. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel so we can get the reach to even more people throughout the United States of America. I am Leroy Truth for Leroy Truth Investigations. Thank you.